Hope you're hearing stuff. Hey folks, how's it going? Can someone let me know that everything's coming through clearly? I assume you're hearing everything okay, folks? I can't really turn my voice up too much louder because I'm running an amp back there and it would just clip it. Man, that's a beautiful tone. That's a beautiful tone. I'm digging that. It's pretty cool. I'm actually running it. I bought a new amp yesterday. It popped up on Trade Me, which is New Zealand's version of eBay. And it's awesome. I don't know if you can see it back there. So it is a MPC, which is not a guitar amp I knew of. Made by a guy here in New Zealand. I think what he does is he buys kind of cheap Chinese kits and then rebuilds them. You know, rebuilds the parts, what have you. Pretty cool. The basic gist of it is, can you let me know that everything's coming through clearly if it is or not? I'm assuming it is. The basic gist of it, what he does, he buys these handmade, hand-wired Chinese kits and then rebuilds them. There's a bit of hum from it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So the front end of it is a Princeton, hand-wired Princeton. So no circuit board, all point to point. The output stage of it is a deluxe. So it's got two 6v6s, so it's a little gruntier than a Princeton, well, a lot gruntier than a Princeton would be. It can either run at 10 watts or 20 watts. I'm running it at the 20 watts. I think the 20 watts sounds better. I'm not particularly sure how he's achieving the 10 watts. Maybe it's like a pento triode thing or something like that. I don't know. But it definitely sounds better at 20 watts. And then it's got two 12-inch speakers, and they're both Jensen's. So for the price I paid for it, it was worth it for just the speakers alone, because Jensen's are fantastic Alnico speakers. They're Jensen P12Rs, P12Ns, sorry, which is the 50-watt version. So yeah, this mic is all you're hearing it through at the moment. It's just a mic in the room. So please let me know that you're hearing everything okay. I mean, I'm assuming you are. Everything's showing up good at my end. Yeah, so it was like very cheap, so I was like, man, I gotta buy this. At worst case scenario, it's kind of got what it's got now, which is there's a bit of hum and noise and stuff. So I figured I'll just order some more components and get my tech to kind of wire them out, because there's only about a half dozen things in a Princeton, right? This has a couple of extra modes that a Princeton doesn't have. So it has a volume and a tone. That thing back there, which is what you're hearing right now. So it has a volume and a tone like a Princeton would, but it also has a bright switch, which he calls bite. I'm assuming it's bright. It seems to make it brighter. Maybe it adds a bit more gain. I'm not sure. I just leave that on because it sounds good. And then there's a voicing switch. I've noticed the up voicing switch seems to have a bit more gain, a bit more push. The middle one, but also brightness. The middle one seems to be most natural, and then the bottom one I think is kind of an in between. Just leave it in the middle. I guess that's out of the circuit. But the thing I found with these simple amps like this, is simple controls, is the volume you have it at is kind of key, right? That's kind of the most important thing. Can someone please let me know that you're hearing things? I've patched things a little differently in here than I normally do. It should make sense because I kind of had to when this mic was getting picked up by the amp was getting picked up by the mic. It was kind of clipping. Because it would suck if there's no sound coming through and I'll do this whole live stream. I don't realize till afterwards and nobody tells me. Which has happened before. So that's the dude pedal just in front of it. This is now the BB pre as well. Just tune. So yeah, do let me know that the sound's coming through. Nobody's let me know yet, so I'm assuming it is. It's always hard to tell. So I've got a heap of new gears coming, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. So today was I picked up that amp because it was kind of one of those things where I just couldn't say no to it. You can probably hear it humming. It does hum a little bit, which is a bit of a bummer, but I'll get that fixed. But yeah, but I got some new pedals coming as well. I'm gonna do some demos of pedals this week. Actually, I'm gonna come back to that. Let's see if I can find where. Assume this is coming through. Actually, I'm gonna come back. Okay, there we go. Where is my? Cool, so that is coming through. Great. Here's a backing track I'm going to find.
Purina 1.
Bloody adverts. This is Jammin' backing tracks, which I've talked about plenty of times as being awesome. This is Fusion Groove guitar backing track in F sharp minor. It should be fun to play to. So this is the dude into that amp, as I mentioned. The dude, and I'm using the VP4 because that's my favorite with an amp, and I've got a delay and reverb on. Alright, for a bit of that. There we go. Yeah, so that was a fun track. If you've just joined me, it's new amp day. So I just picked that up. It's a handmade amp by a guy here in New Zealand. I think he buys like cheap Chinese kit sets, and then he kind of changes components out and stuff to make it better. And there's probably room to develop it still. But basically, it's a Princeton front end with a deluxe on the output. You know, two 6v6s, plus it's got two Jensen 12-inch speakers. Sounds great. It could do with being pushed up a little louder, but it's clipping this amp. And that's the thing with an amp that's simple like that. I find you really got to get it at the sweet spot to get the tone. Because it's not like there's a master volume or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? But I got a whole heap of new gear come in, so that's one thing that's just come in. Fender are sending me out an Ultra 2 this week. Should be coming, an Ultra 2 Stratocaster to check out. What I know from those so far is they have noiseless pickups in them. Jury's out on noiseless pickups with me, but people have been saying good things about those noiseless pickups, you know what I mean? So I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. The best noiseless pickups I've ever heard so far have been the Damasio areas, which is what I have in this. The neck pickup in this guitar, that's a Damasio area, and that one's the standard Seymour Duncan that came in it. Do they change the sound being noiseless? Absolutely. They don't sound as bright, generally. But maybe they've got some new technology going on in this. I don't know what's kind of going on, so I'll check it out. And you know, it's got a whole lot of modern kind of features about it, which I'm excited to see, because you know, there's things about a Strat that kind of drive me nuts. You know, like kind of the access up here and stuff like that. So I believe they've kind of taken to some of those, so that'll be cool. And the other thing too, and these will be coming soon, is I got a whole heap of the new Red Witch pedals. So this is the delay. This is the phaser. Drive. That's the one I'm most excited to check out. And the chorus actually. And the chorus. And the fuzz. Now, many of you will know I'm not much of a fuzz guy. But what I do like about fuzz, and that's something, I'm going to put these out of the way before I knock all my shit over, which is typical for me. What I do like about that fuzz, I was watching the Sweetwater demo with my buddy Ben, and that's the reason that I'm taking those on to do some demos for Ben, is because he's a friend of mine. I get approached all the time by companies about doing demos for them. Generally, it tends to be a lot of the Asian manufactured, cheap, nasty stuff, and I'm just not going to do it. I'm not gonna demo or tell you guys something is good when it's not, because that sucks, right? Why would I want to do that? Where's your integrity in that? For what, some free product and or maybe a little bit of money? No. So I've been offered heaps of them, from, you know, companies that make guitar parts to cheap guitars to cheap pedals, you know, $50 pedals and stuff that, you know, are just going to last about 5 minutes. And there's zero chance I'm going to put it on my board with that cheap stuff. So it's just like, why do it? Whereas the Red Witch stuff, as I mentioned, Ben's one of my dear friends. I've known that guy for ages. And man, that stuff is made to last. He was telling me that with these, what he's done is put so the jack plugs on the end, right, which is a point of failure because a lead goes into there and it kind of only takes you to stamp on the edge of it and then you twist it. Normally they're kind of mounted onto the circuit board, but he's actually done it, wired it in separately. That way, if the jack dies, you just replace the jack. You're not like having to replace the whole board, which 10 years down the track, right? You might find that 10 years down the track, you can't get the board, which sucks, you know. The other thing too is same thing with the switch. This switch, which is the thing you stand on the most, is not connected to the board the way it should be, right? Because you want the stuff to last. I hate gear that doesn't last. I think it's shit when people do that, right? Like, make stuff that's inbuilt obsolescence kind of idea, you know. It's total rubbish when it comes to music gear, especially because we're hard on stuff, right? I mean, literally, you're standing on this stuff. So I think they're really well built. He's offering a lifetime warranty. I don't know anyone doing lifetime warranties anymore because it's risky, you know what I mean? You don't know what the end user's going to do with that thing. They might plug a keyboard into it or something and then, you know, plug the wrong power supply in and blow it up or anything. And it's a sweet tone, isn't it? I'm super happy with that amp. So I haven't even opened these up yet. So, but I did have a look at them at his very fine establishment. Let's have a look at the drive pedal. Because like I said, you can never have enough drive pedals, right? So this is what it looks like. And I'll be doing full demos of these. As always, I always just give my opinion. Do you know what I mean? He's never said what to say, whatever. He's just said, here's some pedals, check them out. He came back and he was like, are you busy at the moment? Can you do some, are you keen on checking out these pedals? And I was like, actually, it's a good time. I've got a few things around the corner, but it's kind of been quiet for gigs at the moment. Wellington's in a funny place right now. And then it was like, that's the extent of it. So went over, we had a coffee, we talked about everything else other than kind of what I was going to do. We talked about his music and he was editing some videos that he was doing, all kinds of stuff. Now, how the hell do we open these? Okay, so they have an outer protective layer. Looks like an Apple product, doesn't it? Which, you know, is usually good quality. It's on a good quality. Instructions. Awesome. Now, one thing that Ben always does with this stuff, wraps it in a good quality denim thing to protect it. Oh, that's cool. Number 23. Early on. Okay, so he's giving you some Velcro in the box. This is an unboxing. I don't do unboxings. I guess I am today. Why not? So here's the pedal. Solid, right. 2 switches, 2 levels of gain, 2 levels of EQ, byte, which I guess is bright, drive, volume, and body, right? Bright and body, that makes sense, right? When you think about it, right? It's probably a better way of putting it. Yeah, I should plug it in, but I won't just yet. I'll save that for the demo when I get to it. And then it comes with an instruction manual thing, table of contents, and again, all this stuff looks slick. Do you know what I mean? Like, isn't it nice when they actually care? So byte is the top end response of the overdrive. Body is how much the low end body the overdrive sound has. EQ, set this control down to engage the byte, and body control set the toggle up to bypass it. Okay, so that EQ is actually a bypass. That's interesting, because you could set, say you want something extreme, like I don't know, loads of body for a bridge pickup thing, and loads of body and bright, like say like that, like extreme. You could switch it out. Excuse me. You switch it out, and when you're on neck pickup, and then like reach down and flick that switch and go to another bridge, another sound with that. That's kind of cool. What else have we got in here? Lifetime guarantee, the 9-volt standard center negative. Example settings. Used to do that back in the day, right? Oh, and they got a little space for your own settings that you can write in it. That's kind of cool. So I will be doing full demos of all this stuff when it comes time to. But I always, whenever I get new stuff in the studio, I'm always like, I want I don't want to do a demo straight away, unless it's kind of like me documenting my initial thoughts on something. But almost always I want to try it. I want to put it through its paces, see what it does. Because, you know, sometimes the first time you play something, you kind of got that, oh, it's new. It's kind of a, I don't know. It's the honeymoon phase of it, right, if you will. So I find that, you know, you've got to kind of, like, one day you'll play something and then the next day you'll play it and you'll be like, I don't know about that certain thing. So you change things. So that's the only way to really know. So for me, I play this for a few days before I do any demos or stuff. Kind of get my head around how it works. Like even that EQ, you can see I don't really know how the EQ works. But there's a delay, a phaser. The phaser's cool. I'm into that. Chorus, I'm into that too. And the fuzz, I'm kind of interested to see what kind of tones you can get with fuzz. I'm not really a fuzz guy, but what I do with fuzz, if I do use it, I find it's a really important thing to be able to get different tones. Because you know, if you take a tone like this, come on. I'm not running through a fuzz. I'm not running through a fuzz at the moment. I'm just running through, this is the Blues Disorder by Keeley. But I've put it as fuzzy as I can get it, just to demonstrate this. So what I'm going to do is just kind of experiment with my volume control on my guitar. Bring the volume down to 2. Let's bring the tone up. Four. You can see just like really quickly I had 3 or 4 different tones kind of going on there with very little effort, right? Like I just kind of set the thing, and I like that playing that way, you know, especially if you've got a treble bleed circuit on a guitar, because then you can turn down and it gets brighter and thinner, and the amount of tones you can get are huge. Now, of course, you can do the same thing with a clean tone, right? But I find that when you start getting into fuzz tones and stuff like that, that's where you kind of, there's a lot of that territory. You know, that was kind of the Hendrix thing, right? That's what he did, was, you know, fuzz pedal, and then he would turn the volume down and kind of go for all those different tones. And actually tone control. I saw someone on one of those groups on Facebook the other day saying, does anyone actually ever use the tone control on a guitar? And I was like, damn it, I do. Like, I use it often. I loved it. I think the tone control is really a useful thing, right? If you got a neck pickup, for example, right, now I'm going to go to the bridge pickup, and I'm going to turn the tone control down and try and get similar territory. Now, to me, that, like, they're worlds apart, but they're actually kind of similar too, right? The neck pickup sounded round and warm, but it's sort of brightness because they had the tone control up. The bridge pickup kind of took on this more mid-rangey thing. Do you know what I mean? And so again, you're stacking a drive on that. It's neck pickup. Alright, go to bridge pickup, bring that tone control down. No doubt you can hear that it has a different kind of complexity. I hope you can hear it. You're only really hearing this mic at the moment because I'm running my new amp. That one. Which I dig. And actually, I'm thinking that this amp would be a really nice pairing for the bassman. You know, you've got this amp that I'm using at the moment, 2 12s, 20 watts. Bassman, 4 10s, 45 watts. And the bassman's going to blitz it out of the water in terms of power. Doesn't mean you have to turn it up, right? Let's go to another tone. Let's try this. This is one of my favorite tones in this thing. Excuse me, I had a bit of a cough today. I'm dying. And that level's way too hot. This is the Keeley Blues Disorder. This thing is freaking fantastic. Let's give it a touch more drive. So I wonder if I can show you that. Maybe, yeah, there you go. There's the pedal board down there. You can see the Blues Disorder. I expected that to be a disaster, but yeah, it's on the floor. It's under the desk a little bit. So the Blues Disorder, great pedal. What I like about that pedal particularly is you've got the blues breaker side of it, right, which is what I'm on at the moment, which I really like for like light drive. Ah, thank you, Cam Pepper. It says it's all good. There you go. It is. Life is all good, isn't it? I'm glad everything's coming through. But that's a cool sound, right? Because it's the blues breaker thing, kind of low gain. But then you can switch it down to the OCD side, and you get more gain and more. It's very different from. From the Dude, which is like fat mid-range kind of singing lead tone. It's more like what I'd use for a crunch. And that sound before, let's go back to that. It's more a single coil tone guitar, but you get the idea. In fact, why don't I swap to the telly? Just because it's right there. I've been enjoying playing the telly lately, but what I find with the telly is, man, it beats up your hands. These things are hard to play. You know, even it's got 10s on it. So it's not like it's that heavy, but I noticed the tension straight away. It's a little more drive. Right, that's that sound. And I always went. There's two things I was doing wrong in there. I always went. Right? But then I watched that Vertex video with Chris Hayes, and he didn't. He just goes. Because the bass player plays that note. But I was like, oh, okay. And the other one is I always went. This bit. But he goes. Such a great band. I love Huey Lewis and the News. Is there anyone else Huey Lewis and the News fans? So yeah, the new amp. Can you see that? I mentioned it's a Princeton front end with a deluxe tube section and then a 212s. Sounds sweet. Now, this is one thing I do with the Fractal VP4 too. So you see, you got that reverb there, right? It's too much for like that kind of funky rhythm stuff, right? It's kind of filling up the gaps. But when I play something like... the reverb just kind of surrounds all of that. But if you get too rhythmic... But with the Fractal VP4, what you can do is you can have 4 within that. So that's the whole large. I'm going to go to whole small. Same sound, but just a shorter reverb time. You see, it's not dry. You can see it sort of, and the thing I find with that is having a shorter reverb means that it doesn't really sound like you've gone to a different guitar sound. It's kind of the same thing. But also too, you know, I've set up 2 other reverbs. So there's of course this, which, as you guessed, I would use for something like. That's no delay, that's just the reverb. Crazy, huh? And then I always like to have with anything, any kind of pedal, because there's 4 settings, it's to have something kind of a little wild, right? Something that's like a little, just an oddball thing that, you know, you might be on a gig and all of a sudden there's a bit where it kind of goes a bit psychedelic and kind of mental and you want to do something different. So this again, the power of the VP4. So, hey Nick, any idea when the next episode of No Guitars with Music comes out? So much to learn from that podcast. Cheers. Oh, thank you very much. I spoke to Warren yesterday or the day before, and we're actually going to film the next episode this Wednesday. So, what's it today? It's Monday, midday. But we're going to film the next episode on Wednesday, so I would say probably out this weekend. It's been a while. Warren's been away. I've been busy with gigs. We just haven't had time to connect on it. But there's lots to talk about now. A couple of gigs this weekend. I'm playing with Don Burnham, American guy. He's over here. It's like a Western swing kind of player. Excuse me. I should have got some water. Which is an interesting kind of take. You know, I'm not really a Western swing player. Excuse me. Jeepers. I'm a jazz guy who also plays blues and funk and soul music and like session guy, right? Really, if you kind of think about what I do, that's what I do most of all. So the Western swing thing's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's kind of like jazz, but kind of like blues and country, and I'm not really much of a country player. But I can kind of, like a lot of it, he wants... sort of bluesy, bebop-y stuff, but not really bebop, but not really blues either. It's like Western swing's an interesting thing because it's kind of this cowboy jazz, if you will. So we were playing on Saturday. Don lives, is a Californian cowboy, you know, through and through. It's like it is who he is. So it's bass guitar. I'm gonna play the Telecaster. I actually thought about bringing more of a jazz guitar because that would be more suited to it. But Don's got a beautiful old L5 that he plays the 30s or 40s, I think it is. And he's primarily doing all the stuff like the... and singing his cowboy songs over this sort of stuff. He's doing that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm going to stay away from that territory. So I was like, well, I'm going to go the telly in. So I am doing stuff like going... You know, lots of kind of pedal steel type things. A lot of it is filling around the vocal or kind of right over the top of it, which, you know, like how a fiddle player would do, that kind of stuff. Hey, if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do that, folks. That really helps. I don't know, is it weird to ask for that? I don't think so. I think it's one of those things. I was getting a bit of, my arm was getting sore the other night, and so I lowered the action on this guitar, and I was like, just a touch, like barely noticeable, but it was noticeable to feel, and I was like, man, it's just so much easier to play now. Comment here says, that's lovely. Also love all of your videos on your channel, really excellent content for a guitar player. Oh, thank you very much. That's what I'm hoping to do with this stuff, right, is create stuff that people get use out of. That's why I do it. BB Pre. This is the dude. Now, in that kind of scenario, it's kind of interesting to think that the dude probably sounds fuller, so therefore sounds better, but not always, right? If I was doing more a rhythm guitar thing, I'd probably step on the BB because it's thinner, right? The dude would be more something I'd do for like the singing lead tone. So SM Superstrat says, Western swing seems fun. Makes me want to learn C6 lap steel. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, the whole steel player thing. Like it's not something I've kind of gone down that road too much of. I'm definitely not a country player. Like I can bluff a bit of it if I have to, and I've kind of had to do that on sessions before. And you know, I know stuff like even that last lick wasn't really country. You know, I've got my licks that I can do that I can bullshit it if I need to, but I'm definitely not, it's not authentic when I do it. That's because there's lots of other things that I do when it comes to music, you know. I'm just going to change something. This is annoying me. There we go. That's better. I got a couple of LED strips up along here, and they're really super cool. Being able to change the lighting of the room a bit. So you really notice that noiseless pickup in here, like I was talking about earlier on that one, right? If I... And then I go to the bridge pickup. And then I'll go to the in-between. You can hear that the neck pickup, while it's changing the tone, it's also like winding off a bit of top end, but that's kind of a nice thing too. Just gives you more options on a telly. Oh man, great. I'm glad you find it useful. Comment was great stuff, Nick. Thanks. Cheers, man. Yeah, so I'm particularly looking forward to getting stuck into this, as I mentioned. The new drive from Redwitch and the chorus and the phaser. Those are the three that I think that kind of most going to sit with what I do. But I will, of course, go into the fuzz because I kind of like that stuff too. And the delay, this one, very cool. Delay-wise, pretty much nowadays it's just all the VP4. There's nothing I can't do in that thing. But I do have a Strymon timeline back there, which is really good. I think that the timeline is probably the best delay pedal that's ever been created. There, I said it. I'm on record. I always like the green Line 6, the original one. The Line 6 delay, those were awesome. They didn't have, you know, but the timeline just took that to a whole nother level. Timeline came out like 10 or 12 years ago, and still like the one, right? I haven't even scratched the surface of what that thing can do. Do you know what I mean? And of the smaller pedals, one of my favorites too is the Keeley Echoes, which is a tape delay. That thing's awesome, and the cool thing about it is it's a normal pedal size, you know, like what the standard size, but it has a on-off switch, but it also has tap tempo, which is awesome. SM Superstrat says, my dad is into bluegrass, so as a kid my mum got this ancient bluegrass and western swing. My sisters and I would laugh at it, but eventually, year after year, it was one of the albums we looked forward. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's funny that, isn't it? You know, when you're young, you're like, you kind of want to hate what your parents like, right? And then later in life, you start to go, actually, they were into some kind of cool stuff, right? Because, and you don't even realize that influence is happening. A friend of mine, he's been playing his daughter, Michael Brecker stuff since she was born. Some would say that's child abuse, but no, it's like, you know, they're absorbing that stuff, even though they don't know they're absorbing it. You know what I mean? It's kind of, I think it's really cool. Question here says, hey Nick, how do you dial in your modeler to sound like a real amp when you go direct into the mixer? I find my amp sims clips and doesn't sound the same when I go direct as opposed to an amp. Yeah, how do I dial in the modeler? So basically with me, what I do with the modeler, I don't treat it any different than any other amp, because it's not. It's just a digital version of an amp, right? So the things like being able to push the amp to its sweet spot, I do the same thing with a modeler, right? The other thing too is I find with modelers, because you have all these different amp models and all this stuff, there's too much fucking around with all that stuff, right? Just stick. I haven't changed the sound in my Fractal for about 2 months now. It's been that Texas Star, which is the Lone Star, which is one of my favorite models in the Fractal world. I've done a video directly on that. I just use that, and if I want it dirtier, then I just turn the amp up virtually, right, or add pedals in front of it. I do actually use the Friedman model in there too. I think it's the BE50 is really good, but those are the only 2 amps I use in the Fractal stuff, and there's a heap of them. There's everything you could imagine, but it's the same thing live. Like, so that's one thing I'd say is find just stick with what you do in the real world. If you're a Vox AC30 person and that's what you're into, dial up an AC30, get it sounding like it sounds in the real world to you. You're away. Then you can focus on the music. That's one thing I do like about the modelers is once I got to that point and I got it set, it was kind of like, now I can just focus on the music and not worry about that stuff so much. But and they do sound really good. For me, it's like the gold standard is in terms of sound is the Fractal. They're not the easiest to use. I think Quad Cortex have the edge in terms of the user interface. You know, it's smaller. It's about the same size as an FM3, but you've got all those extra switches. You've also got a touch screen. You know, I mean, that's just great. But the Quad Cortex doesn't sound as good, at least not with modeling. Now, you can like sample your own amps into it and all that kind of stuff, but I don't really care about that, to be honest. To me, I don't know that that's any better or worse than modeling. It's like, however it sounds good, just do that. But to me, it's like the Fractal sound-wise is the best. And it's not just the modeling, it's the effects too. And I've talked about this heaps. Just one of the reasons I love the VP4 so much and why I'm using it a lot is that the Fractal reverbs and delays are unbelievably good. It's worth it just buying it just for those. For me, anyway. I mean, that's just, it's inspiring, do you know what I mean? I often forget that that's a reverb from a pedal. It feels very natural. It's also the way they kind of bypass through with you. You're not losing tone of your guitar. It's like that's one thing a lot of pedals and manufacturers don't think about is like, what is your analog through like? But yeah, anyway, so that's one thing. Find an amp model you like. The other thing too is I don't switch cabinets. I've been doing that all along. I pretty much use the same cabinets, whatever amp I put into things. Because you wouldn't do that live, right? Or maybe you would. If you're Eric Johnson, you know, you'd have a Marshall setup, a Dumble setup, and a Fender setup. Most people will just have the same amp through the same cab. So for me, it's like find a cab that works and just go with that. Do you know what I mean? And so even though I might be switching out the virtual version of the head, which is the Friedman, and then the Lone Star, I'm using the same cabinet with the same mic placement. So it's because speakers and microphones placement, it EQs things massively. It's a huge part of the sound, right? People don't think about that, how much a speaker really affects the sound. You don't like your sound of your amp, try a different speaker. Often that will fix it or change it, you know. Because one reason I bought that amp, I thought if the amp sucks, I'll just take the speakers out of it. Because it's got 2 Jensen P12 ends, or R's, whichever one they are, the 50-watt ones. And those speakers are amazing. They would sound amazing. One of those speakers would sound amazing in my Deluxe. And I'm tempted to do that. And then I was tempted to like think about it last night. Maybe I should take one of those speakers, put it in my Deluxe, right? Because it's a Jensen, that's what kind of would have been in there. And then cut that amp down to be like a Princeton size 112. But I like it as it is now, so I probably won't mess with it. It sounds good. Yeah, and then in terms of level, I find most of the time too with a lot of stuff that I see on people doing presets and stuff with the Fractal stuff is they go too hot on everything. It's like turn the output up, turn the preamp up, turn the microphone up, and everything's just getting up and up and up. You know, and one thing that happens with that is you take away the dynamics of it, and then people wonder why this stuff doesn't feel very good, right? So I just say, like, bring all your levels down, especially if things are clipping, like, generally the range with microphones was always -6 to -12 was where you were aiming for when you're recording, right? That was what I was always taught, try and get in that -12 to -6 range, closer to -6 being better. But that's enough, right? You don't need to be up just below 0 and into the red most of the time. So the same thing with the modeler, give it some room to let it breathe. The thing with a modeler I find makes a big difference is having reverb on it, like a good reverb, because the thing is, whatever modeler you use, make sure it's got reverb, because I don't really want to use an amp in the real world without reverb either. And even like this amp in this room here, this space is creating some kind of reverb. It's not directly into my ears. The ambience is affecting the sound and the way it shapes. So I find that that's a big one too, is making sure there's some reverb on there so that it's natural sounding. Because, otherwise it's hard work, isn't it? I'm going to play another track. This is Funk Fusion backing track Jam Along in E minor. I don't know this track at all. If it sucks, I'm just going to turn it off. This is just literally the next suggested video on YouTube. Because that's what I do with all of these. I have my iPad right here. And I just play them off YouTube and play over them. Why not? yeah, it's a fun track. That's cool. Jazz, funk, fusion, backing track in E minor by Jam Along Backing Tracks. So you're hearing the new amp, that one, which, like I've mentioned, if you just joined me, is a Princeton front end deluxe tube section, two 12-inch speakers. Kind of interesting thing, by MBC Amps, made here in New Zealand. I got it for super cheap. Like, they're not expensive. Okay, so question here. Any pointers on how to nail the turnaround every time? How do you approach lines over changes? Yeah, so it's interesting because this track has it as E minor, or they're saying E7 sharp 9, right? I don't know why they put both. It's really like an E minor 9 is what I heard. Sound right? So I was kind of approaching that with all the usual stuff you would on an E minor 9. And then it says the B section is C major 7. C major 7 to B7 sharp 5, E minor 9, and then it said A major 7. It's not that. It's really dominant, right? But it definitely says A major 7. So of course I went, and I was like, oh, no. It's really... I guess that's a mistake they put on the screen, whatever. Or maybe that's what they were thinking. So to me, it's like the key to kind of playing turnarounds and chord changes and all that kind of stuff is just work on playing the arpeggios, right? Change running. So if we've got C major, practice going. Make sure you know that inside and out, right? Like just straight C major. Next chord B7 sharp 5. Right, E minor. To A7. Back to C major 7. B7 altered. A minor. A7. Back to C major. You know, really not making sure you know those arpeggios across the neck, so you're not kind of guessing where they are, right? And then start just stringing that stuff together, because you can do a lot with just that. You know what I mean? And I'm just really just stringing arpeggios together with a few extra little things in between. And that goes a long way to kind of making it sound like you really know how to play those chord changes. And then, of course, you can look at the scales that relate to it as well. Like on the B7 altered, I'll be using super low gren. And all those. All those sort of things, you know what I mean, that sort of draw it all together. And I find that that's often the thing, is like people haven't spent enough time with that stuff, you know, like to really get inside it. And the thing is, I've never played this track before. Never heard it. I didn't know what to expect. I just, literally, it was the next one that queued up, suggested tracks on YouTube. So I put it up, but I've done enough work on this stuff that those changes come up all the time, right? Flat 6, 5, 1, right? This is kind of like a blues. Right, that blues turnaround that happens all the time. And then from right to the A7, that's essentially just 2, 5. So because I've done the homework on all those other things, it just spills over to this one, right? And that's the thing I find, like that's kind of it. Also, too, have some licks up your sleeves so that, you know, so maybe you have an altered lick, you know. Did you know you can play that going to that, and that, you know, if everything's kind of falling apart for you, you can kind of throw that in and get yourself out of jail. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that's helpful. I find a lot of that stuff is really useful if you just kind of study jazz stuff. A lot of the jazz stuff that happens, the kind of chord changes are similar in a lot of the songs, so you sort of, and even a song like Giant Steps, you know, it's kind of got some tricky chord changes and what have you, but it helps you to understand how chords work. Even if you don't really want to play jazz, you might be like, I'm not into playing jazz at all. Well, that's cool. Don't play it then, but you can still learn from it, you know. It's like I don't really play country, as I mentioned before, but I still learn from that stuff, you know. What can I steal? You know, those kind of things. I just stole that from the country guys, you know what I mean? Anyway, folks, hey, I'm going to have to go. It's been an hour. I try to keep these to about an hour. Thank you for joining me. As I mentioned, the Fender Ultra 2 will be here this week, so I will do a demo on that. Check it out, give my thoughts. I'm hoping the noiseless pickups are actually good in it. We will see, because I'm not sure about noiseless pickups nowadays. There was a while there where I was right into it because I just couldn't handle the hum. But I do find that regular pickups do generally have more of a sparkle on the top, which is really necessary. So you gain something, but you lose something, like with every bit of gear, right? So, but that's coming. The Red Witch pedals are here, so I will be doing demos and giving my thoughts on these. As I mentioned, nothing's been told about what to say or do with any of the stuff. I wouldn't do that. I did have someone once actually reach out and say, "Hey, can you do this and this, and can you say this?" and gave me all the points to hit, and I was like, "Nope, not going to happen." Right? Like, if you don't have any integrity with the stuff, then why are you doing it? To me, it's like, so my thoughts are always my own, right? And I don't show stuff I don't really dig. Like, I'll just say no. Because what's the point? Like, if there's zero chance I would ever use something, what's the point, right? It's not. And I could come on here and slam it and kind of be an egg about it and kind of, but that doesn't help them. It doesn't help. I'm not really focused on negativity, so I won't. Negative for the sake of it. Maybe that's why my channel isn't growing as fast as some people who are negative. Just looking at you, Mr. Hands. Right? Like, people love drama and negativity, you know, and this person has beef with this person and all that stuff, which is usually bullshit, right? But yeah, so yeah, anyway, it's going to be my thoughts, and I'm only going to do stuff I dig, because why not be, you know what I mean? Like, aiming to be positive with this as much as I can. But the Fender Ultra's coming. The new amp's here. I bought that yesterday. I dig it. I really like it. It sounds sweet, doesn't it? And it sounds even better if you can turn it up a touch. Which I can't do right now because of this mic. Would be going wild. Anyway, thanks so much, people. I will see you very soon. Take care. Cheers.